Even when I'm out, I'm in.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Arey, and I want to talk to you guys about Secret Invasion Episode 4. This is a show that I am rooting for, a show that should be shaking the foundations of the MCU, and yet they just gave us one of the biggest reveals ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and no one cares. Is it because of low ratings, or is there something else behind this? So I'm going to talk about why I think all this is, and what the show has done right and wrong, and a little later I'm going to be joined by Nando V Movies and Paul from Heavy Spoilers, but first, here's my take. What's really surprised me about this show is the viewer apathy. So I did a poll on our community page, and this is how you all voted. 55% of Screen Crush viewers like the show, 14% don't like it, and a whopping 1/3 are not watching the show yet. I mean, guys, you're part of Screen Crush Nation here. We're used to watching every MCU show in the morning before we go to work. So like, what's going on here? I'm wondering if we've been seeing something with this show where it almost feels obligatory. Like Marvel is ticking off boxes of things that need to happen in order to set up the future, like Fury and the Marvels and President Ross and Captain America Brave New World. Now, look, there's nothing wrong with the MCU using time to set up future projects. Captain America Civil War was basically all set up for Infinity War, but it was done with elegant writing, clockwork precision, and it put its characters first. That movie had scale, substance, it was a fanboy dream come true. And Secret Invasion's comic book storyline would have also been a fanboy dream come true. Massive scale, hundreds of heroes. The show does not have the artistry, scale, or budget that this story deserves. I mean, this is not the same level of MCU show that we saw back in 2021. But look, first I want to be fair and point out like what the show is doing right. For one, they have done an exceptional job with the Skrulls. The Skrulls look great. They have believable motivations, and they're so sympathetic. So I think the Skrulls in the MCU are actually way more nuanced and interesting than they are in the comics. And the show also has these world-class actors putting on a clinic. Samuel L. Jackson is bringing the weight.
And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so?
But he's also having fun.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
And speaking of torture scenes, Olivia Colman is a treasure.
Alone at last. Now, shall we do this the easy way or the other way?
Now, all of the character-based drama with Fury works pretty well, like his strained relationship with his wife.
You just up and vanished again. Only this time it was voluntary.
But one flaw with all of this is, though, that there's a lot of telling us things in this show instead of showing us. We don't see Fury post-blip. We don't see him lose faith in the heroes. We just kind of hear that he's been depressed.
After the blip, you were different.
I think Thanos' snap changed you.
You were never the same after the blip.
Even when you did come back, there was no talking to you about anything real.
He's been broken ever since he came back from the blip.
And by the way, the entire show's premise has been undermined because we actually saw Fury in the Marvels trailer, so we know that things are going to work out just fine.
Well, that could be a life model decoy.
Yes, it could be an LMD, that's correct.
Hey, person.
Yeah, buddy?
How do you know so much about films and movies and stuff? Did you go to a film school? Like a cinema university kind of thing?
No, well, I mean, I kind of did, but mostly I just watch a lot of movies, and I watch a lot of documentaries about movies. There's actually a great docuseries I highly recommend for you called Crash Course. There's terrific episodes about film criticism and film history. They're entertaining, informative, and you will be a film expert in no time.
Oh, and where could I find that delightful documentary series?
Well, it's one of thousands of documentaries on CuriosityStream. They're the sponsor of this video. I watch a lot of video essays, and I see CuriosityStream advertised all the time, so I finally checked it out. Now I'm hooked. Plans start at just $5 a month, so it is incredibly affordable. Plus, they have monthly and annual plans, so you can choose the plan that works out best for you and your budget. CuriosityStream has an unbelievable variety. Like when The Last of Us was on, I watched a great doc series on there called Attack of the Zombie Fungus. It shows how the inspiration for The Last of Us fungus actually infects ants, turns them into zombies to spread their spores. It's very cool. CuriosityStream has so many award-winning and original documentaries like this that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, we're talking docs on science, nature, history, music, tech, and of course, film. Also watched a great series on film composers that I highly recommend. New content drops on CuriosityStream every week, and you can watch on multiple devices. CuriosityStream is great for people who love to learn, and there is something here for everyone. So I highly recommend CuriosityStream. Go to curiositystream.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series. And for our fans, use promo code ScreenCrush and you will save 25% off. So click the link below or go to curiositystream.com/ScreenCrush and save 25% right now. Now back to Secret Invasion. So the real problem with this show is that it feels small. Even though the world is threatened with extinction, it doesn't feel like it. Like I watched the show and I don't feel threatened. And the best example of this is the lazy, uneventful Rhodey is a Skrull reveal. So we've talked about this extensively on the channel. I have been excited for Rhodey to turn out to be a Skrull for years. We did a video breaking down how long Rhodey could have been a Skrull and what this would mean for the MCU. I mean, this reveal had the potential to be universe shattering. It would have made us question everything we've known about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But instead, we got the reveal over the phone.
St. James Church, 1 hour.
Now, okay, granted, the captions do say, man on phone, but that's Don Cheadle. He's one of the most famous people on the planet. I mean, wouldn't a Skrull have at least changed into someone else to disguise their voice over the phone? And this reveal was just way too easy to see coming. He treats Fury like dirt a couple episodes before. He fires Fury.
And to tell him without any reservation that he's fired.
And he just doesn't act like the man of honor that we've come to know over the past 15 years.
Well then, how should they have done the reveal?
Make me feel something. Like, okay, Fury tells Rhodey about the Skrulls, and Rhodey's like, oh my god, Skrulls, well, let's do something about this. What's a Skrull? Let's hop into action here. And then, later on in the episode, you could reveal to the audience that Rhodey is a Skrull, so there's a ticking clock, creating suspense. Or maybe you don't reveal it to the audience, and you have Fury and Rhodey working together throughout the show. And then, you can pull the rug out from under Fury and us at the same time. That would make us go back through the entire MCU and think, oh my god, how long has Rhodey been a Skrull? Who else could be a Skrull? It should have been the moment of the show. I mean, look, this is a spy thriller about shape-shifting aliens. Someone's going to be a shape-shifting alien. There were very few candidates for this, and Rhodey was always the best choice. No powers. He's known Tony Stark for years, and he's been there from the start. They could have revealed that he's been a Skrull since Iron Man 2, sent to study Tony Stark and infiltrate the Avengers. But I'm betting that now Rhodey will have been replaced just after Avengers Endgame, because the Skrulls have only recently turned evil. And it's such a shame too, because like, imagine if they find the real Rhodey and they wake him up and his first question is, ooh, where's Tony?
Oh my goodness, that would be awesome!
Right? Like in the comics, there's a huge cast of characters, lots of moving parts. You're not actually sure who you can trust. After Elektra, Spider-Woman, and Hank Pym were revealed to be Skrulls, you suspected everyone. But in the show, there's budget constraints. They can't pay royalties in a lot of characters just for a Disney Plus show, and plus the sets feel small, the scale feels small. This is a global drama that is playing out in small rooms. Even a big set piece like the motorcade attack, which is really cool, but it feels small. Like all the fog that rolls in for the fight scene, I bet that's to obscure the background and save money on CGI rendering. And I don't even want to say, well, that's a TV budget for you, because Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan is a political spy thriller like this, and the show looks fantastic. Look, if Secret Invasion is not going to be a massive crossover, fine. It's actually really perfect to reinvent as a spy thriller, but it's a spy thriller that should look and feel like a mashup of the Bourne Identity and Tom Clancy movies like Clear and Present Danger. See, that's my point. Even if the show doesn't involve superheroes, the stakes need to feel big, and they don't. Disney Plus Marvel shows used to be better than TV because they were the MCU. And I know that part of this is like a product of their times. When Disney launched Disney Plus, they needed marquee shows to pull in new subscribers. So they threw these insane budgets at WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, The Mandalorian. Even Andor Season 1 cost $250 million.
Billions. With a B.
Creator Tony Gilroy has even said that there's no way that kind of budget would be greenlit today. Although it did pay off with that Emmy nomination for Best Drama though. What? Now this happened in large part because in 2020, studios had a major revenue stream cut off. So we entered into the streaming wars. Warner Brothers was releasing theatrical movies the same day on streaming. I mean, look, all of this was a gold rush that has now completely burst. Max, Disney Plus, and Paramount Plus are all removing shows from their servers to save money and claim them as losses. Disney laid off 7,000 employees as Disney Plus was also losing a ton of money. And then we really started to see these purse strings begin to tighten in 2022. Like She-Hulk though, right? Okay, so I know people dunk on that show a lot, and it's got plenty of problems with Marvel changing around the episode order and moving stuff around and making Scar look like this. But like when you go back and you watch the She-Hulk Marvel Assembled series, you can see that a lot of time and care went into the production of this show. They filmed Tatiana Maslany in a very expensive room to fully render her character in 3D.
It also requires about 50 cameras set up in a volume.
But then I gotta think they were forced to cut corners in post, because throughout most of the series, Jen looks like a Sims character. And the same thing's true in Ms. Marvel. So the show had massive production problems because of COVID shutdowns. But that like big climax in the Pakistani market was embarrassing. Look at this CGI. It's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. level CGI. And I've also heard that the clandestines couldn't have powers because of budget constraints. So both of these shows had so much to love in them, and I actually think that we're going to look back on them fondly. But at the time, cutting the corners made the shows feel cheap. And now we're seeing the same problem in the films.
My name is Darren, and I...
And now we're seeing a tightened budget take its toll on Secret Invasion. Again, apart from the wet fart of the Rhodey reveal, I don't think the show is bad. It's fine, but it should have been epic. I don't want Marvel streaming shows to stop. I love Marvel streaming shows. I love covering them on the channel. But what I do want is for the house that Kevin built to start choosing its projects a little more wisely. Like, take that Agatha and Echo budget and apply it to crucial stories like Secret Invasion that need to feel huge. If they don't do that, then all the shows are going to keep feeling half-assed and obligatory. But those are just my thoughts. Now I'm joined by two of my favorite YouTubers. We have Paul from Heavy Spoilers and Matt from Nando V Movies. So I'm pretty excited to hear from both of you about this. Nando, I want to start with you. So years ago, I think before you even broke, you posted this great video we've talked about on the channel about, hey, here's the proof Rhodey could be a Skrull. And this is like pre-Endgame theorizing you did. And it was pretty great. We've talked about that video a lot on the channel just during this show. So now that we have the Rhodey Skrull reveal, what were your thoughts on how it was executed?
So I think it's interesting because I think part of what I've been trying to kind of figure out is it felt weird. Rhodey's felt weird for the last 2 or 3 episodes, right? Like, he feels like he's more of a jerk and he's very cavalier. And it's even like different from, you know, because Rhodey's always been kind of a loose cannon, or like he's been, I don't know, a straight shooter. I don't know what you would call that kind of character, but like he's been that. And I do feel like they kind of went, well, listen, people aren't going to buy this unless we turn it up to 11. And maybe the, you know, decision there, or like the rationalization is he just hates Nick Fury so much that if you put him in a room with Nick Fury, he is going to chew him out. And like, but I don't know. I think on the whole, I'm glad they made it official. Like, they just took the Skrull face and then turned it into Rhodey face. Like, that was great. Because I would not want weeks and weeks of, you know, this, like, kind of limbo. And, but I think, like, and I think it's fun when him and Fury have this back and forth where they both know the other one knows the thing. But I do think it feels kind of like if that wasn't there, the show would really be struggling to kind of have something interesting to talk about. So I'm glad they did it.
Don't you think, though, that the part where you're like, yeah, he's acting weird and maybe he hates Fury so much, wasn't that undermined by the fact that they had never shared the screen before? You know, if they had been two characters with a history, I'm, you know, just going to cherry pick. I'm going to say if it had been, say, Tony and Steve in that scene, you know, if like the universe would have worked out different, we were doing Secret Invasion instead of Civil War. If it had been Tony and Steve, then it'd be like, wow, these two really have been building up with this beef and they have this shared history. But in this, it just kind of felt, did it seem obligatory to you almost?
Yeah, a little bit. I do feel like they kind of probably told Don Cheadle, like, you're a villain in this scene, so, like, you know, really go for it. We want Algae Rhythm from Space Jam, but, you know, slightly less Warner. But the idea of, like, I think it could have worked a little bit better if this Skrull had some sort of history with Nick Fury. Like, if we had done flashbacks earlier to seeing how this Skrull and Nick Fury had interacted, like, we still don't even know which one this is. I mean, we know the name because of the, you know, the credits, but besides that, like, there was a point where you're kind of wondering, like, oh, because especially when you see it's a woman, like a Skrull woman, before you see the name, you're like, oh, is this the wife? Does she hate
I thought it was Soren. Yeah, that would have been
faked
great.
Her death? Yeah. And then you're like, okay, now this relationship, like, this dynamic makes sense because of a relationship that doesn't really have anything to do with War Machine, but it's not that, and it's not Gaia, and it's just very strange. But
yeah, just like how in the comics, you know, Hank Pym had been acting strange for like 20 issues before he was revealed to be a Skrull during Secret Invasion. Paul, how about you? You know, just talking about the Rhodey reveal, did you feel like that was satisfying? Did they drop the ball? What are your thoughts on it?
Dropped the ball in it massively, yeah. So they did the reveal over the phone last week, and it was, I'm going to out myself as an idiot right now, but I didn't even realize it was Rhodey on the phone. I thought it was like Pagan, because it was so obvious that Rhodey was going to be the Skrull. Because, I mean, let's look at Skrull candidates for the show. Everett Ross, you know, that one kind of, whoa, Everett Ross is a Skrull.
First 5 minutes, done.
Yeah, exactly. And then who are you left with? You've got the Skrull characters, Nick Fury, Maria Hill, who dies in the first episode, and Rhodey. And I can't think of any other characters off the top of my head right now. Maybe the President. But
well, what about Olivia Colman or whatever her name is? Sonia, another character who's
AKA the best character on the show so far.
Yeah, but we don't have a history with her. You know, this is the first time she's appeared in the show. And obviously they're making Secret Invasion. Going off the comics, the reveal is, whoa, these characters have been Skrulls for ages. The only other character who's been there for ages, other than Maria Hill, who's dead, is Rhodey. So it kind of it narrowed it down very, very, very loosely. And yeah, I think it just became obvious. It was almost like the Power Broker with Shannon Carter. Sharon, I keep calling her Shannon. But
it's so embarrassing.
It was kind of where you knew it was going to happen, and it was so obvious that it was almost like a red herring. And then when Sharon at the end of Falcon the Winter Soldier, she got on the phone, it was just like, oh yeah, I've been thinking for the last week, it's so obvious. I've not even made videos saying that it's her because of how obvious it is. And yeah, I just thought with Rhodey, it was abundantly clear exactly what it was going to be. Now, going back to the whole Soren thing, I actually had a theory that what was going to happen was that Rhodey was going to be revealed to be Soren. And you know how in the trailers we had Gaia resting over a body after the convoy attack, which is obviously, we know that's Talos now. But I thought what the twist was going to be was that the Rhodey would get killed in the convoy attack, and then it would be revealed to be Soren. So you'd have Talos and Gaia both having this big... Because, I mean, if they were going with the obvious route of Rhodey being a Skrull, I feel like they needed another twist on top of that. And revealing that it was Soren, I think, would have just elevated it a bit more because they both thought she was dead. But yeah, just disappointing over the phone. I think the way they should have handled it was, you know, a character actually learning it instead of, or face to face at least, because Nick finds out the definite listening in on the conversation. And I mean, it doesn't even look that shocked, to be honest, which, you know, it kind of plays into his character that he's aware of everything, but. You know, like Darth Vader being Luke's father. Spoiler alert. The emotion is that you're feeling in that moment is represented in Luke, who's screaming out, and so you get an embodiment of your feelings on screen. Whereas with this, you didn't really have a character giving a reaction to it. It was just kind of Nick just chilling out, like, yeah, known her for a while. So yeah, it just fell flat. It was the most obvious reveal that was going to be in the show. But I still think they could have done more with it.
And you're 100% right. There was no sense of personal betrayal toward the character, and hence no sense of personal betrayal toward us. And a lot of it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the show feeling small. And it's not just that, you know, there are intense dramas that are technically, like theatrical dramas, that are technically quite small, that are filmed in small spaces, but feel theatrical and feel big because of the emotions on screen. And I'm just not getting that from this show. I'm not getting high stakes on the world stage. I'm not getting like high personal stakes. Maybe it's because we didn't see Soren die. It just feels to me like it's obligatory. Paul, what's your thoughts on the show so far? I know you were a big fan of the first 2 episodes.
Yeah,
you know,
I enjoyed 3 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one was the worst one, and it was also the shortest one, which whenever they kind of have a certain set length that they tend to do, whenever they inevitably release the one that's in the 30-minute range, you always kind of get a feeling that they're sort of rushing through things. And it always happens towards the end of the series as well, where things should be really mounting up, and instead it kind of almost falls flat a bit. And yeah, the reveals this week were obvious. Guy is alive, yeah, we guessed that. Skrull Rhodey, and I even knew, I could tell Talos was going to die as well, just from what had been shown in the trailers. And yeah, it just kind of felt like they were going through the motions. I agree with the whole scale thing as well. I think, you know, they keep telling us it's World War III, and we do kind of get that idea almost, but the characters aren't there who would be present for a World War III
Yeah.
thing. Where are the Captain America would be sorting out things for World War III, because he pretty much encompasses that country and their dealings internationally and stuff on combat levels. So yeah, it just feels like it's a Disney Plus show. At the end of the day, that's just what it feels like. It's not that
When it should feel like
next
a part of
level.
the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame we
Nando,
don't
how about
have
you?
any
What are your thoughts?
high-profile. I was just gonna say it's a shame we don't have any high-profile Russian characters in the MCU that we could throw to right now that could be,
Yeah.
getting involved. And then it's like, oh, he's here, very convenient, but also maybe too convenient. I do feel like as we've been talking about it, it did kind of bring up one of the weirdest things about the Rhodey scroll reveal, which is like he's a bad guy before and after the reveal. Right? Like, wouldn't you expect in the beginning of it, he's helping Rhodey, or he's helping Fury, Rhodey, and then he's he's not firing him and not being mean to him, and then you get a moment where it like turns, it's like, oh my god, this person I thought I could trust. Like, it's just so, the dynamics are so strange. Parts of this scale I totally agree with. Parts of it I also think, I do think, and I don't want to, upset anybody. Some of these guys just feel tired. Like, it feels like we got, especially Talos, who I love, and I think Ben Mendelsohn is doing a very good job, has a very, exhausted energy because his character has seen a lot of suffering and whatever, and he's just, done. At the same time, we have this Rhodey we have this Fury who's off his game, and he's just sitting there in the chair like, oh man, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And so I feel like what we need is a character in the middle of that who has some energy, who's able to kind of keep this ball moving, because a lot of especially in the first couple episodes, the scenes just felt very low energy.
It's disappointing as fans of the comic books, because when, I remember reading that event when it came out and being like, oh my God, it was such a great concept that harkened back to the very earliest issues of the Fantastic Four. And they had all these things where they went back and made you re-look at events from the past. They took old Marvel Comics of Skrulls and was like, but here's what you didn't see, so they were kind of retconning things to build up the current day storyline. Comics not perfect. There was the whole, there was this badass thing where every time a Skrull would kill someone, they would say he loves you, and you're like, oh, who is that? Who's he? Turned out to just be the Skrull god. So it wasn't perfect, no Marvel crossover can be, but it was epic. And I understand it's a scaled down spy thriller, but when you watch certain spy thriller, the Conversation, right? Not even a spy thriller, it's a surveillance thriller with Gene Hackman. That movie is in tight, claustrophobic spaces. It's about spies and listening in, but it feels big because the dramatic stakes are big. And that's something that in this show, I'm like, it's so hard for me to understand what's not clicking, because this is a world-class cast. Academy Award nominee Samuel L. Jackson, Academy Award winner Olivia Colman, Emilia Clarke. Insane work that they're doing in individual scenes, but it's as a whole, the show isn't coming together. And I wonder how much of that is because of behind the scenes at Marvel. We saw all this money put into streaming at first, like I talked about earlier, and now we've got, at the end of the Chapek era, this beginning to scale back.
I think it's kind of almost the opposite problem there's the opposite solution, which is and part of it is Coven of Chaos, because I do think that could be kind of an inflection point here. It's such a weird pitch beyond just this character had the popular song and is played by an actor people generally like and all that. I think the problem with some of these is that if you pitched the Secret Invasion show we're watching, the pitch would make no sense. Not because the show is bad or anything, just because it's this one spy and his friend who's a secret shape-shifting alien, and they have other shape-shifting aliens that are different from the other ones, and they're not friends, and this guy's in there, and it's just it's too complicated. Whereas I think what they need more of, and what I think they've been able to do well, like you were saying, 2021, because the other thing they did really well in 2021 was Shang-Chi and Black Widow, maybe not as much, but there were some movies that felt like real kind of just fresh new things that you could jump right onto, because you would, even if no one watched the Marvel movies, you'd say, well, I know, but it's he does super kung fu and he's really cool, and that's all you need. I think Agatha could be that if it's just a really fun show where you're like, someone who never watches these shows, you go, yeah, I know, you haven't ever seen it, but it's Charmed, and one of the witches is evil, and they sing every so often, like, and it's really good. That, I think, is what Marvel needs, and what Guardians was, and what a lot of these things are these shows you watch in spite of the fact that they're, like, Marvel properties. Like, Andor really did break this for me, because, like, Andor it was so good, it was so disconnected from so much of the rest of it, but it was also just so well done. You felt so excited to tell other people about this show you just found out about, and like fight them on like people who just like were like, I don't like Star Wars. I'm like, I know, but you're gonna like it. I think there need to be, instead of being like these really obvious moves like let's get Ironheart in because she's the next Iron Man, people like Iron Man, I do feel like I need to know what the pitch for that show is besides, you know, kid doing Iron Man stuff in college. Like, what makes this something that people really want to watch?
Yeah, and just to briefly touch on what Paul said earlier about like thinking every character can be a success, I think She-Hulk could be a success. She-Hulk's a great character. I don't think a Disney Plus show is the right place to be introducing new characters. The formula in 2021, you know, Matt, you mentioned it, Shang-Chi and the Eternals on the big screen, new characters, big screen. People will watch a Disney Plus show for the big screen characters, and then they'll want to see those, you know, other characters. It's like I think they inverted that formula in 2022,
right?
And I just think we need a balance between the two.
That makes a lot of sense, though. Yeah, that is a good pipeline for like how they have been successful before, and how comics kind of would work, where you'd have a character, you know, introduced in a big event or an ongoing thing that was really popular, and then they get their own little spin-off book once they're really kind of working, and you know, you want to see more of their day to day.
Black Panther was in Civil War.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and then you got
and Spider-Man. Like the MCU version of Spider-Man, which worked really well. And you could have easily taken Black Panther after Civil War and put him in a Disney Plus show if that had existed at the time. And I think that would have been a success. You know, it's just, I don't know. And then like, in my mind, it keeps going back to She-Hulk, how they rearranged everything at the last minute, how unfinished the VFX were. When you watch Marvel Assembled, those people worked really hard on that show, and it just didn't have the proper time and care in the pipeline that it should have. Nando, where can the people find you?
I mean, everywhere. If you there's a thing and you put the words Nando V Movies in it, then it usually comes up with my thing. We have a Discord. We have, you know, obviously a YouTube channel. Nando Cut is a secondary channel, which has been very helpful since every day is some new insane casting announcement. And then I have a podcast called Mostly Nitpicking, where we talk about either the big thing of that week or some other thing, some other movie that's kind of leading up to it. So we just did the Haunted Mansion movie from 20 years ago, which is a terrifying sentence to say out loud as someone who is over 30. So yeah, all those things. Yeah.
Paul, how about you? Where can the people find you?
Heavy spoilers every Wednesday after Secret Invasion airs. Come over to us, please. Yeah.
Essentially, Paul makes the videos in real time, so the it's sort of like they travel faster than the speed of light, so his breakdowns come up before the episode even airs. And just a reminder, everyone, to get 25% off Curiosity Stream right now, click our link in the description and use the code ScreenCrush or scan this QR code. You won't regret it. This site is awesome. Well, what do you guys think of all this? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Arey.